Getting discharged from the hospital, Liam was sitting in living room. He was lost in his thoughts, and that was because of his daughter. He remembered clearly what he saw in hospital, or more specifically what he saw in his daughter's eyes for his rival Jeon Jungkook. He knew that in his absence something had happened which he had to know, or else things will get more complicated. He had some thoughts or doubts, but he had to confirm them yet. He signed and looked at the closed door of his daughter's room. There she was, lying on the bed while looking at the ceiling. Her eyes were open but were emotionless. Lips were dry like she was suffering, and that was true because she had suffered because of the person she fell in love. But in her eyes, it was all about trap and lies. He never knew that she will end up like that. She decided to trust that person and he broke that. She decided to give him space in her surroundings, but he misused it. She gave her a heart to him, but he broke it. But the worst thing was that all these things led her to hate him more. One thing was clear, that she will never trust him or any guy again. And another thing was clear, that she was dying to get her revenge from him. She sat straight on the bed and picked up her phone. She dialed a number and waited for a response, which she got in seconds. She gulped and said coldly, "Prepare everything. We are going to take him down now." Saying that, she didn't wait it and cut the call. She said to herself, "The time has come. Now you will pay for every single thing you did to me by losing your life in my hands." She stood up and went towards the side table. She took a pocket knife and a gun. She looked at the gun and thought something, and then she dashed out of the room. She was hurt, which was making her angry, and she knew she had to calm herself, and that will happen only by taking revenge from him. Liam stood up from the couch when he saw his daughter running downstairs. He stopped her and said, "Where are you going now?" Hafsa looked at Liam coldly and said, "To end what he started." Liam became confused, but then he got her point and said, "It's not a right time." She said, "Then I will make it right and you are not stopping me." Saying that, she dashed out of the house. Liam tried to stop her, but it didn't work. He knew his daughter will not listen to him, and he became more worried for her because he knew she went towards that Mafia King. Liam looked at the door and said, "I have to find out what had happened in my absence, or she will do something which she will regret later." Liam knew, and now he wanted to find the truth, but how he will. Sitting on the edge of the bed, he was resting his hands on the knees and was looking down on the floor. Sweat was on his forehead and eyes were red. Room was in the messed up state like he had a war here. He was also hurt, but the reason was himself. What he planned took a turn on himself. He wanted her, but the path he chose for this purpose was not okay, and he knew it before. His one lie led to another, and now he lost his image in her eyes, which was stabbing him hardly. The thought that she hates him was like a pain which he never knew he will face or feel. He said to himself in his deep voice, The hate which I saw in your eyes in hospital, there was a time which I had found love in them. The bitterness of your voice when she said against me, they were soft before, which only showed love to me. Everything has changed in a matter of seconds. And the reason is me. I was the one who was obsessed with you and selected this path. And now, when I am in love with you, I can't do anything. Never knew I will stand where I won't be able to do anything. He closed his eyes and felt the pain which was in his heart, and then continued. He said, I know you are feeling the same pain which I am, but yours is more because it is filled with hate. I know I broke your trust, but how I will make you understand that the reason behind all this. I know I was selfish, but the reason was you. I was mad for you. What should I do now? He rubbed his hands on his face, but soon the door got open with a loud thud, and he glared at the person who dares to disturb him and entered without his permission. Jungkook stood up from the bed, and a guard came inside worriedly. Sir, we got attacked by Liam's. Her daughter is here. The glaring eyes were all gone now. He became calm just by thinking that she is here. Jungkook, she is here. Guard, yes. We got attacked and Sir is also not here. What should we do now? Should we retaliate? He completed his words but got slammed on the wall by Jungkook. Jungkook glared at him while looking him and said angrily, don't you know who is she? How dare you to even think of hurting her? No one should even look at her. Am I clear? He dropped the guard down and he left hurriedly while nodding his head. He asked for retaliation and instead of that he himself got into the trouble. Jungkook messed up his hairs and said, it's good that you are here, but the purpose is not right, love. You are choosing violence, and many of our guards will die. He knew he had to stop her, so he went outside the room. Stepping out of the room, his eyes caught the view where all his guards were fighting with Liam's guards. He looked at the surroundings, his eyes were finding one particular person, but she was not there. He took a step forward and looked clearly, but she was nowhere. Soon he heard a voice. Looking for me? Just as he turned around, he got a tight punch on his jaw. He stumbled back and held his jaw and looked at her, who was now standing in front of him. He was about to say something, but groaned when she kicked him on his stomach. He again stumbled because it was hard. She pushed him on the floor and pointed her gun at him. Everyone stopped fighting and looked at them. Jungkook raised his head and looked at her who was pointing her gun at him. She smirked and said, what? Are you getting afraid while looking at your death? Or you didn't expected me here? Jungkook knew behind that smirk there was a pale face which was hiding how badly she was hurt. He knew she didn't came here on her own. It was her anger who forced her. He slowly stood up and looked at her. She was glaring at him. Jungkook said, Ryan, listen to me. She said, I don't have time to waste on your useless talks. I already had enough of it, and now it's time to end this here. She said boldly on his face, and he knew that no matter what, she won't listen because she is still not ready and she can do anything in anger. Jungkook, my feelings for you was not wrong. Suddenly, she shot in air and again loaded her gun and pointed on him. Jungkook looked at her shocked and she shouted, don't you dare to say those words again. I was a fool to trust you, but not anymore. Say bye to your fantasy. He was feeling different emotions in him. He said to her, if you think that this is right, then I am ready to face it. She frowned slightly because she knew he was powerful, and if he wanted, he could have snatched her gun and point on her, but he was ready to die. She glared at him and put her finger on the trigger. He gulped because he knew what was coming, but he was ready because if he wasn't ending up with her, then he don't want to live anymore. He saw she put her finger on trigger and her hand was shaking little bit. She gulped and Jungkook closed her eyes. Her eyes became slightly moistened by seeing him like that standing in front of her. She wanted to put the gun down, but the flash of what she heard from her dad came across her mind, and she was again triggered. She closed her eyes and pressed the trigger in anger. Jungkook heard the gunshot and was ready to feel it, but he didn't felt anything and heard a groan. He opened his eyes and saw Vian lying on the floor like someone had pushed her, and there was Taeyang who pushed her. It fell along with her. He came on the moment and saw the situation. He knew Vian was angry and she will press the trigger, which he did, but he pushed her on the time and bullet went inside the wall. Jungkook was shocked with the thought that she was triggered to that extent that she really pressed the trigger. Taeyang stood up. He shouted on Jungkook, are you that blind for her that you didn't know that she will press the trigger? What have you done to yourself in her love? Jungkook was only looking at her, who was shocked in herself that what was she doing. She looked at Jungkook shocked and stood up. Jungkook took a step towards her. He knew she will be nervous and worried. She was looking terrified. Jungkook said softly to her, nothing happened. Everything is fine. He said to make her calm, but she looked at him with her pale face. She couldn't believe herself. She took a step back and she dashed out of there. Her guards followed her, but Jungkook didn't. He knew she needs time. He put his hand on Taeyang's shoulder, but he jerked it off. What is all this, Jungkook? Look at yourself. You were ready to die. Jungkook smiled, but didn't say anything. Yes, he was ready for her. Jungkook went inside his room, and Taeyang looked at him in disbelief. He was hurt for his friend, and he couldn't disclose the truth in front of her that he was the one who shot her father. He was sad for his friend because now he knew he was mad for her in her love.